Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. We are now in the chapter that talks about nawafil, which are the optional voluntary prayers that a Muslim offers to come closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. So yesterday we talked about the fact that standing for a long time in the nawafil is desirable, and that is the highest reward for nawafil is for longer qiyam. Some people cannot do qiyam for long, some people cannot do qiyam at all. Then they can sit down. If they do sit down and they're sick and they cannot stand, or if they stand they just can't focus because they're in pain, then they get the full reward as if they were standing all this time. If somebody is healthy and he can stand, but he chooses, to make things easy for himself by sitting down and praying nawafil, only nawafil, you can do that if you're healthy. But if you're sick, then you can do the fard and the nafila sitting. If you're sick and you cannot stand, you can do both, sitting, and you get the full reward. But I'm talking about a healthy person. A healthy person is not allowed to sit down for the fard salah, for the obligatory salah. It's not allowed. The salah is invalid that way. It's a rukn. But if he is healthy and he just chooses to sit down and pray sitting, that is fine. But he gets half the reward of standing. There's a hadith. سألت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن صلاة الرجل قاعدا، عمران بن حسين، فقال إن صلى قائما فهو أفضل ومن صلى قاعدا فله نصف أجر القائم. So he gets half the reward. Yes. Yes.
So if you are traveling,
yes,
you are in your car and it's time for salah.
Yes.
Or you are in your plane and
yes, then you can. If somebody's traveling and he wants to do nawafil while traveling, he can do it in a sitting position, and that's what the Prophet ﷺ did sometimes when he was riding the camel. He would pray on the camel. Are you asking if he gets half the reward of the full reward?
no, I'm saying if it's time for fard salah and
If it's time for fard salah, if there's any way that he can stand and do the salah standing, like in an airport, and combine the salah, dhuhr and asr, maghrib and isha, that is a better way of doing it, rather than praying sitting in the airplane. Okay? Because in the airplane, you really don't get the chance to, there's no space for you to stand and pray. And if you go back, it's not legal for you to pray in the hallways, because they prevent that.
You have a flight of about 9 hours.
Yes.
So what do you do?
Then what do? You try to combine the salah as much as you can before and after, if it's still good time to combine salah. If there isn't, then you can pray sitting. Then you can pray sitting, because, and that's darura, that's an exception. You're forced to do that. And we mentioned a hadith on this matter when we were reading in Bulugh al-Maram, that one time the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba were traveling, and they were in a narrow valley between two mountains, and it was raining, so there was flooding on the ground. And it was a fard salah, it wasn't a nafila. And he actually prayed sitting regardless of the qibla, because you cannot really control the qibla either in a plane, or if you're in a valley and the camel or the horse is moving, right? You do your best to seek the qibla if you can. Like if you're in a plane and it's going east, like this, you can turn a little bit southeast, okay? But if it's going west, then you can't really. You don't have that kind of option. If it's going north, you can tilt yourself a little bit, and you still get the, northeast or the east, right? So you do your best. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ. You try to obey Allah and regard Allah as much as you can. When you cannot, then the obligation is basically lifted from upon you, because you've done what you could. So what he did, Prophet ﷺ went forward with whatever ride he was riding, and he actually prayed jama'ah while they were behind him, each one on his ride. And he prayed jama'ah, and this is an example, this is a very good example which we can apply if somebody is traveling and has no other choice. You remember this hadith, basically you've applied that kind of hadith, okay?
even if it's it's just too cold outside, you're going to Calgary, and during winter the salah is very near.
If it's too cold, no, I don't think that's that's enough a reason, because unless it's extremely cold that you feel to die, but like too cold, like what? Like it's a blizzard, or
Cold in
Just the-
snow.
just the-
like if it's minus 15, minus 17, you can still go out, put your rug, and pray quickly, and jump back in.
Why not get to Calgary? If it's just a matter of from here to
No,
Calgary.
but you know, in winters, Zohar and Asr are so
Very
near,
short time.
right? Sometimes.
You do your best. No. If you have, because we go out in the cold. Some people are working out in this cold. Some people are actually working. Go ahead.
You can wait for weather to get better.
Wait for 3 months.
If some people are working out in the cold, they glove, they wear heavy. You can do that. I don't think you're allowed to pray sitting.
You will not be able to. When we were doing construction of this extension,
Yes.
I came in
Yeah.
and prayed there in the cold.
Yes.
No, one cannot focus. I was almost frozen.
Just for the 5 minutes.
Sometimes in 5 minutes, one will freeze.
5 minutes is a lot for
5 minutes, one will freeze up.
There's a permission now.
You can combine the salah then. If you feel that you cannot pray in the way, you combine it. I think you can do that.
no hairs on your head.
Okay. So we talked about the sitting. Yeah. So yes, you can choose to sit down. If you feel that's going to help you, you can do that, but you get half the reward if you're healthy. There's a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ did part of the rak'ah standing and part sitting. Sometimes the person has some energy but not full energy. So what he did here, Sayyidah Aisha says, he made takbir, and then he did his recitation sitting, because he did very long recitation even when he was sick. She says then, فَإِذَا بَقِيَ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ السُّورَةِ 30 أو 40 آية قام فقرأهن ثم ركع. It says then when only 30 to 40 verses are left, then he would stand, recite them standing, and then do ruku'. 30 to 40 verses, that's a long standing.
Actually, for him, because he used to recite so long, so he can
30 to 40 verses, you would probably need at least 20 minutes, and maybe 15 to 20 minutes to recite them. So he would stand in the last 15, 20 minutes when he was feeling, tired or sick. Then he comes to Sunan al-Mu'akkada, or Sunan Rawatib. Sunan Rawatib, the Sunan that are linked to the obligatory prayers, called Sunan Rawatib. Some are Mu'akkada, are stressed upon, which means either Prophet ﷺ stressed upon them verbally or he did them quite regularly. And there are some that are not mu'akkada, not stressed upon. Sunnat al-Fajr is one of the main ones, and the witr, of course. The most mu'akkad, the most stressed upon sunnah, and the most important are the sunnah of the morning, salah, Fajr salah, and the witr, the odd number prayer that you do at the end of the night. And we know this. لم يكن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم على شيء من نوافل أشد معاهدة منه على ركعتين قبل الصبح. He said Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم was not diligent more than these 2 rak'at. Because even when he traveled, he would not do the other sunnah, but these 2 rak'at he would keep. Okay? So he'd keep the 4 rak'at when he was residing, but when he was traveling, these 2 rak'at and the witr he would still keep. Okay? And then the hadith, ركعتا الفجر خير من الدنيا وما فيها. The 2 rak'at, the sunnah of Fajr, are more valuable than the whole dunya that Allah has created and everything that Allah has created in it. And that means, of course, from the time it was created till the time it basically vanishes at the end of times. Now, and that's not an exaggeration, as we know, because it isn't an exaggeration, because we cannot comprehend the thawab of the akhirah. We cannot comprehend ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت ولا خطر على قلب. We've only seen the dunya. Ibn Abbas says ليس في الدنيا مما في الجنة إلا الأسماء. He says there is no similarity between the enjoyments of dunya and the enjoyments of akhirah. The only thing that's similar between them are the names, but the reality is totally different. Now, and of course, if something is perishing, even degrading gradually, and then you have something that never vanishes for infinity, At one point, even if they were equal in value, even if they were equal in value and quality, that thing that is that never diminishes would supersede the thing that diminishes, you know. But as we know that the reality of the akhirah is far beyond whatever we may experience in this dunya. So Prophet ﷺ used to pray these 2 rak'at, and he used to make them quite fast and light, not long salah. Okay, that's an important thing as well. And he used to recite, what surahs did he used to recite after Fatiha? In the first rak'ah, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. And in the second rak'ah, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Nah. That's a common knowledge, alhamdulillah. There is, but this is what we all know, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. And that's basically what we all really apply. But also there are some other things he used to recite. One of them is, it's an ayah, it's actually one single ayah, قُولُوا آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْنَا وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ. It's an ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah. It's ayah number 136. If you want to memorize that ayah and recite it in the first rak'ah, you can. Just the one single ayah. And in the second rak'ah, آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَاشْهَدْ بِأَنَّا مُسْلِمُونَ, Surah Al-Imran, verse number 52. So in the first rak'ah, verse number 136, Surah Al-Baqarah, and in the second rak'ah, verse number 52. Okay? And that alone, the fact that he recited the rak'ah with one ayah and one ayah, shows that it is permissible. Like say, because some people may say, oh, why are you not fully completing the surah when you pray? No. This shows that it is permissible to take part of a surah or even a single ayah. It is still acceptable. Why do I say that? Because you will find some opinions that are telling you that you cannot recite shorter than 3 or 4 verses in the rak'ah, but that's not the case. We have a hadith here that refutes that. Okay? No. Okay. Prophet ﷺ used to sometimes lay on his right side after he does the 2 rak'at. And that is because he used to do long qiyam, so he used to take a short break before he goes for the Fajr Salah. But sometimes if Aisha radiallahu anha, she says that because she noticed that she's the one who narrated the hadith, one of his wives is awake at the time, he would actually not lay down, he would actually talk to her. And Aisha radiallahu anha, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصلي ركعتين فإن كنت مستيقظة حدثني وإلا الضجع. She said he used to pray the 2 rak'at of Sunnah before Fajr, and if I was awake, he would sit down and talk to me. But if I was asleep, then basically his habit was to lay down. Now finally, we'll finish with this. If somebody misses the 2 rak'at before Fajr, what does he do? Now, what is the best to pray it when? What is the best time to pray it if you miss it before Fajr?
After tasbih?
What is the best?
The best after
No, the best is after sunrise. The best is after. There is a hadith on this matter. وَمَنْ لَمْ يُصَلِّ رَكَعَتَيِ الْفَجْرِ فَلْيُصَلِّهِمَا بَعْدَمَا تَطْلُعُ الشَّمْسِ. It's better to do it after total sunrise. Yani after the sunrise by about 15 minutes. So you wait until it's fully risen above the horizon, 15-20 minutes. Ishraq, the Ishraq, after Ishraq time. But if you don't have the time, you cannot do it because you have to go to work. Or you may forget, then you pray it after. I'll tell you. There's a hadith on this other matter. So the first hadith, he basically gave the direction. The second hadith, you'll see that he saw somebody do it this way and he basically allowed him. But we'll talk about this hadith right now. The Prophet ﷺ saw a man praying after the subh salah, the morning salah. He was praying 2 rak'at. The Prophet ﷺ then told him, the subh salah is only 2 rak'at, which means that don't add 2 more rak'at. Then the man said, إني لم أكن صليت الركعتين اللتين قبلهما فصليتهما الآن فسكت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Says, I only missed my 2 rak'at sunnah, and now I'm praying them. So he approved. That's what's called the tacit approval. إقرار. And إقرار is part of the sunnah, because sunnah كل ما أثر عن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم من قول أو فعل أو صفة أو تقرير. Everything that we have inherited from Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, whether he said it whether he did it, or some kind of situation or description, or taqrir. This is what's called tacit approval. No, we will stop here, inshallah. Yes. Yes.
If I miss, if I pray at night time,
Yes. Yes.
then I forgot
Yes.
daytime, how many rak'ahs?
Okay, that's a good question. If somebody misses the witr, and you cannot really get it in real quick right after the adhan, like you woke up at the adhan and you can still get it in, but if you can't,
Get it after
yes, I read an opinion. I read an opinion like this. But if you miss it totally, then you can do the witr after ishraq as well. But basically, you make it shafa. You make it an even number, not a witr number. You don't make it an odd number. So if it was 3 rak'at that you pray 4 rak'at. You prayed 4 rak'at, and you do it 2 and 2. If it was 5 rak'at that you normally pray, make it 6. You do 2, 2 and 2. If it was just 1, then you make it 2. Okay. Yeah.
I've asked you that question.
Yeah. Yes.